So today we're going to break down a really fascinating new AI architecture called the Multiscale Vision Transformer. The big idea here is to get an AI that can watch a video more like a human does, actually understanding the flow of what's happening, not just seeing a bunch of snapshots. Let's dive right in. We think of AI as being this incredibly advanced thing, but how well does it really understand video? I mean, is it just recognizing objects frame by frame, or does it truly get the sequence, the story that's being told over time? Well, some researchers found something pretty startling. They took a standard vision transformer and they showed it videos where the frames were totally scrambled. And the result? Its accuracy barely budged. It dropped by a measly 0.1%. But when they ran that same test on this new multiscale vision transformer, the MViT, its accuracy just plummeted by over 7%. Now, that tiny little drop in the old model, it actually reveals this massive weakness. A lot of today's most powerful AI models are, well, effectively time-blind. They're amazing at recognizing a pile of still images, but they can completely miss the flow of action, the very thing that makes a video a video. So why is this happening? To really get it, we've got to look under the hood at how these models are actually built. Okay, so the standard vision transformer, or MViT, it's an incredibly powerful tool. Its whole thing is to take an image, chop it up into a grid of smaller patches, and then analyze all of those little patches at the same time to figure out what's in the scene. But here is the catch. The standard ViT uses this one-size-fits-all approach. It processes the entire video at one single fixed resolution. MViT, on the other hand, uses what the creators call pyramid vision. It starts by looking at the tiny, fine details, and then it gradually zooms out to understand the bigger picture. It's way more efficient and, well, a lot smarter. Yeah, that old method, it's not just inefficient, it's totally unnatural. It's kind of like trying to read a newspaper with your nose pressed right up against the page. Sure, you can see all the individual letters perfectly, but you have no clue what the headlines are saying or how the articles are laid out. You're just missing all the context. The creators of MViT, they saw this problem and went looking for a better way. And they found their inspiration not just in pure math, but in biology and some classic ideas from computer vision. This quote from the research paper really gets right to the heart of their breakthrough. The team didn't just invent this out of thin air. They connected a classic, powerful idea from vision science, this concept of multiscale hierarchies, with the modern horsepower of the transformer model. Just think about how you see the world, right? When you walk into a room, your brain doesn't process every single pixel at max resolution all at once. You instantly get the vibe of the overall scene. You see the forest. And then you can focus your attention on the interesting details, the trees. And MViT is built on that exact same principle. Okay, so how does this actually work? Let's walk through the architecture, what the paper calls the multi-scale feature pyramid. It all starts, of course, with the input. We've got a high-resolution clip of video, just packed with raw data and detail. So in the very first stage, the model is looking at this video in high res. It uses a pretty small number of channels. You can think of these as little detectors for specific things. And it's just trying to find simple features, things like edges, textures, basic movements. It's basically spotting the individual leaves on the trees. And then this really clever trade-off happens. The model starts to pool information, which is just a fancy way of saying it summarizes small patches of the video into single ideas. This makes the image a little coarser, a little lower resolution, but in exchange that frees up processing power so it can add more channels to recognize more complex things, like how all those leaves actually form a branch. By the time we get to the final layers, the image resolution is pretty low, but the model's understanding is incredibly rich and complex. It's not just seeing pixels anymore, it's grasping abstract concepts, the full context of the scene. This is how it finally sees the whole forest. So to recap that process for each stage of the pyramid. First, it's grabbing fine details at high resolution. Second, it pools that information together to see bigger patterns. And third, it expands its conceptual library to really understand what those patterns mean. Now, this isn't just some clever architectural trick. The results are what really matter. For anyone out there building with AI, this pyramid approach leads to some real game-changing benefits. First off, accuracy. When you train it from scratch on the same video dataset, MViT is nearly 10% more accurate than a standard ViT. And in the world of AI, a 10% jump, that is a massive leap forward. Second, and this is huge for entrepreneurs and engineers, it is way more efficient. This pyramid structure needs 2.6 times less computation. What does that mean? It means it's faster to run, it's cheaper to train, and it's way more accessible for teams that don't have a giant server farm in their basement. So the key takeaway here is this. MVT gives you top-tier accuracy at a fraction of the cost. But what's really crucial, especially for developers and startups, is that it gets there without needing these massive, super expensive pre-training datasets. That makes the state-of-the-art power way more accessible for everyone to actually build with. So when you put it all together, what MViT delivers is a model that is more accurate, way more efficient, that actually understands the flow of time, and is more accessible for everyone to train and deploy. It's a win-win-win-win. By basically mimicking the hierarchical way our own brains process the visual world, this architecture is a fundamental step forward. It brings AI vision that much closer to actual human vision. So the question for all the builders, the designers, the creators out there is, what are you going to build with it?